call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Thursday, August 14th. Councilman Valentine, if you'd be so kind as to lead us in prayer.
Before I lead in prayer, let me remind everyone, the other night I mentioned our Councilman Dennis Cullen. He did go undergo 3 bypass surgery, and that was today? Today. And from the reports I got on the email, that he's doing excellent, and he'll be in intensive care for a few days. So make sure you remember him in your thoughts and your prayers. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for friends and family, Lord God. God bless this meeting tonight, Father, as we undertake the business of the parish. May each one of us come with a spirit of cooperation and a spirit of information, Lord, and communication, so that we can decipher the information that we need, Father, to make the right decision. Father, we ask protection for our men and women in service, Lord God, as always, and ask you to bring them home safely to their families. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Ms. Suzanne, please make note that Councilman Dempsey Lambert, Pat Bell, Dennis Cullen, and Kent Shake Snyder are absent. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to sign up, please sign a comment card. There are no chairs additions. However, I will be moving agenda item 10D, 10H to this point on the agenda right now before we do the Lamar Dixon report. Fire District number 3, increased contract for part-time firemen to $400,000. Mr. Ray.
Evening, Council. We want to increase our contract budget from $360,000 to $400,000. We originally were intended to offer a small raise, but we added shift coverage, and with the additional shifts covered by contract, the budget, we need about $400,000 a year. And we have on our budget, we had budgeted good excess money for our workman's comp, and it was a whole lot less than what we thought it was. So we checked with finance, and they said that we have the money to move. We want to move $40,000 from that account into this account.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Benny Johnson to approve. Any discussion? Any opposition? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our Lamar Dixon report. Mr. Eddie Crawford.
Good evening, Council. I believe you have 2 reports for us tonight. Our typical monthly financial report, and also we put together a PowerPoint presentation that we hope will add a little more information to our typical report. This time I'd like to have our Regional Vice President, Doug Thornton, come up and give the PowerPoint presentation, and that will be followed by Lisa Williams as our Director of National Equine Facilities.
Okay.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Doug Thornton. I'm the Regional Vice President. I know some of you, but not all of you. I'm based in New Orleans, and the facility that is here in your parish is one that I have responsibility for. And we've been here with you now for, I guess, just a little over 3 years. At Lamar Dixon and operating, for the parish as your representative. And what we wanted to do tonight is take a few moments and update you on the performance out there, and share with you some of the numbers. There were some questions that were asked at the last meeting from what Eddie was telling me, and some things that you guys had requested of us. And what we've done is we put together a presentation for you that I think will be very revealing and enlightening, that speaks to the historical performance of the facility and our contributions to the facility. And it's a little different format than what you are used to seeing. The numbers are all, they should be all very familiar, but it's a little different format than than what you've seen in the past. I would like to start. I think the PowerPoint should be, that's fairly small print for those of you in the audience, but I believe each of you have a copy, a hard copy, and we have hard copies for the press too if they would like to see this. But if you can follow along with me, what you're looking at here is the monthly financials for the period ending June 30. As you know, our staff regularly reports to you the monthly financials as they occur. And as Eddie mentioned, this meeting tonight is we're going to sort of do that through this report, but also give you some additional information. What this will show you is that in the first column, our budget for the year, we projected a $176,000 deficit at Lamar-Dixon after the inclusion of management fees. Now, let me just say about the management fee. SMG, under the contract that it has with the parish, is not entitled to receive a management fee unless we make the budget. We have to make the budget. And to the extent we don't make the budget, we get nothing. So we work for free. So we have all the incentive. It's a performance-based management fee. We have all the incentive in the world to make sure we hit the targeted numbers, which are approved in advance by the parish. So our budgeted deficit, if you will, when you strip away the lease purchase price and the insurance cost and some of the other parish-related expenses which are beyond the control of SMG, was projected to be $176,215 after the inclusion of the management fee. We are right now projecting that we're going to be better than that number by $32,422 by the end of the year. Now, that's our forecast as we stand here today in August, looking forward to the end of the year. And that $32,000 number, which is $32,000 better than the $176,000 number, is the projection based on the events that we have programmed in and the activities that we see that will be held at the facility between now and year end. So that would give us a projected total deficit of $143,000 after the inclusion of management fee. Now, if we don't make that number, our management fee will be reduced, and if we miss that number by $100,000, we get paid nothing. So I just want to point out that's our June financials. Now, it's important to note right here that this is a little different format than what you're used to seeing. And at the last meeting, I know there was a lot of discussion about operating losses, and in fact, I think I picked up an article here from the Advocate that indicated that Lamar-Dixon had lost an average of $700,000 each year of the lease. And I would say to you, the word loss is really a little bit misleading. The deficit, this is the true operating deficit. The expenses that the parish has to pay for the lease purchase, the insurance, and some of the capital repairs, you would have that anyway if you were going to operate this facility with or without SMG. So what we've done is we've stripped all that away to show you the true operational performance as we go forward. So this first slide is the June financials, and our June financials indicate that we will make our budget for this year. And in fact, if we continue on this pace, we will beat our budget for this year by $32,000. Moving to the next slide, we wanted to show you how we compare this year to the past. And I thought it would be important to go back and look at where the facility was in 2004 when it was operated by the foundation, not by SMG. So you see the first column to the far left is the pre-SMG period, and you can see that the bottom line deficit, the adjusted net operating income or loss, was $925,000. That was the last year that the Dixons and the foundation operated the facility before SMG took over. Nearly $1 million deficit. Well, the first year that we had the operation of the facility, we had Katrina. If you recall, we took over operation in July. Now, again, these figures take out and eliminate the purchase price. That is set aside. We're not ignoring that, but we're just saying from a true operational perspective, it cannot be embedded into the financials. It needs to be set aside as a different expense. But if you look in that first year, that 6-month period from July 1, 05 through the end of the year, you remember what happened. We had Katrina that year, and the building was heavily utilized, and we actually generated a $300,000 profit at the facility because of the heavy utilization. And we can't sit here and take credit for all of that, but I would tell you that due to the professional management, the negotiations that we had with a number of the tenants and the users out there that were there for an extended time, the financial accounting practices that we put in place allowed us to generate that surplus. It contributed to it. But nevertheless, the building actually made money in that 6-month period. Then we move out of the Katrina period and we go into 2006. And you see that our operating deficit that year was $442,000. Again, irrespective of the purchase price and the insurance that the parish is required to pay under its agreement with the foundation. One of the reasons that deficit was fairly significant that year is because we had a number of cancellations. We had a few events that moved out because of Katrina. And of course, if you look at the next year in 2007, you can see that deficit was practically cut in half. On an operating basis, our deficit was $230,347. That was last year, the full year of 2007. So we began to trend in a more positive direction. Well, that trend is continuing in 2008. If you see that last column there, you'll note that our deficit this year is projected to be $143,000. As I just mentioned, for the June financials, we're forecasting that we're going to be better than budget for the end of this year. Now, just to take a look at this on a graphic depiction, now those of you in the audience, you might be able to see this a little bit better. That first block there on the left-hand side of the page is 2004. That's the $925,000 deficit. Now, that's a true operating deficit when the foundation operated it pre-SMG. Then we have the 2005 6-month period where it actually generated a surplus, $304,000. And then we go into 2006, 2007, 2008. And the thing that you see here, the common thing that you see here, is that the operating deficit, the true cost of operating the facility, which is judged by the operating revenues less the event and operating expenses, is trending down. It's going in the right direction, as indicated by the graph on the next page. If you take a look, you'll see the line graph. It shows very clearly that the true operating performance of this facility is trending in a positive direction. As we go into the last quarter of 2008. Now, if you flip to the next page, this next slide shows you a different way, in a different perspective, a different way to look at the operating performance out here in the last 3 years. And we're throwing out the Katrina year for this slide. It gives you a sense of perspective as to what we've done compared to the last year of operation by the foundation. If you were to assume that the $925,000 loss in 2004 is your benchmark, and use that as your benchmark for measurement purposes, look at how much money has been saved over the last 3 years, $3.1 million, if you use the $925,000 loss in the last year of operation by the foundation as the benchmark, you will see that there's a huge savings, actually, that have been realized when compared to that loss in the first year. Now, just a different way to look at it, just a different perspective. And we put that slide in there for that reason. But again, it shows that there are some positive things going on out there. At the last meeting, I believe you asked for us to give you an indication of how this facility compares to other facilities that we operate of similar size and scope, our competitive set. That's what this slide shows. We have 6 facilities that we manage on a national level that are comparable to Lamar-Dixon. They may not all look the same. They may not have the same square footage in their buildings. but they all have some common threads. They have similar staff sizes, they have similar event mixes, and they're heavily used by livestock and equestrian purposes. So all of these 6 facilities fit into the competitive set of Lamar-Dixon. And you can see that Lamar-Dixon is, in terms of operating performance, when it comes to deficits, operating deficits, it compares very favorably to at least 4 of the facilities, 4 of the 6 facilities that we have under management. Of course, one of those is Lamar-Dixon, and the other is Jacksonville. And Lisa Williams, the general manager of that facility, who is also our national equestrian director, is here tonight, and she's going to talk to you about that facility and how it compares to Lamar-Dixon as well. But I think this is an illustration. Again, it gives you a sense of perspective how Lamar-Dixon is operating compared to other facilities of similar size, similar scope, similar event mix, and with a high percentage of equestrian and livestock use. Most of these facilities are, they do festivals and fairs, livestock shows, just like we do here. The next slide that I wanted to cover is just some of the highlights over the last 3 years. Sometimes we all get caught up and we tend to forget what's been accomplished at Lamar-Dixon. If you think about it, when the facility was turned over to the parish, managing that facility for that 6-month period, well, I guess it was a 4-month period after Katrina, was no easy task. It was completely filled. It was an animal shelter. It was a shelter for evacuees. We had Entergy out there. We were having to keep track not only the logistical issues, but also of all the finances. And we managed to do that very well. It was a very, I think it turned out to be a very positive thing in the end for the parish, for the facility. It was something I think everybody was proud of. We were able to help the folks of New Orleans and the New Orleans region. We also were able to secure a long-term agreement with the Louisiana Sportsman Show, which happens to be a show that was in the building that I oversee in New Orleans, the Louisiana Superdome, for many, many years. Bob Del Giorno, who was the promoter of that show, expressed interest in coming up here and being in a more outdoor setting with his sportsman show, and it's worked very well. I think he's been here for the last 2 years, 3 years, Eddie, is that right? 3 years now. The show's done very well. We've also moved one of our RV shows from another facility in the New Orleans area, from the Pontchartrain Center. It's a show that's been successful down there, and it's done a couple of times a year. So we've signed some long-term contracts with some of the shows that we've been able to market to. The other thing that we were able to do is win a bid to host the high school rodeo finals for 2 consecutive years. That was no easy task. We had to wrestle that away from Lake Charles, and I think if you were to go and ask the folks at the Tanger Outlet and the Cabela's store, they will tell you that they have seen a dramatic increase in sales and traffic, during that period of time, the 10-day period of time when the high school kids were here, and also during the time that the LSU Livestock Show was here. Lisa has been working with Eddie on securing some events, national events of national scope, 2 of which I think we're prepared to talk about tonight. One that will be held later this year in December, and the other will be held in April, a national barrel racing show. So our national marketing strategy is working. Lisa is out traveling the country, talking to our other facilities. She's got a network of clients and promoters that she deals with, and basically beating the drums for us here in this parish so that we can generate activity. And we'll talk about that. She'll mention that in a few minutes in her role. We've also hosted 92 new events over that 36-month period. That's pretty remarkable. Now, some of those may have been small events. Some of those may have been larger events. Some of those were events like the high school rodeo and the sportsman show and the RV show that I mentioned, and others may have been smaller. Also, increasing the power to the RV sites to meet the customer demand. We're able to increase the revenue of that RV park. I think most of you, you guys realize that that has become a revenue source. That was a strategy, if you remember, early on. That was part of our business strategy to maximize the revenue from that RV park. And it's working now. That thing has been leased pretty solid since Katrina, and has generated a considerable amount of revenue. And finally, SMG, as part of its management contract when it was hired, contributed $50,000 to the marketing fund. And then when we were paid our management fee in 2005 after Katrina, we contributed an additional $50,000 to an event marketing fund, which Eddie is now using to support events, local, regional, and national events. When they come into town, if they need an incentive, whether it's buying hotel rooms or transportation subsidies. A lot of these events are very competitive when they travel around. You can't just go into the event supermarket and pick one off the shelf and say, we think we'd like to have you come to Lamar-Dixon, because they have many facilities that they can choose from, and they typically want, just like any other business, they want to have incentives. So sometimes it takes $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to pay for some of their event-related costs, so that you could be competitive with the other facilities that they're thinking about. So that's what the event marketing fund is used for, and that event marketing fund will help us with a couple of these events that Lisa's going to talk about shortly. So what is our near-term business strategy as we go forward? If you think about it, we've done pretty well, as indicated by those slides, despite the relative uncertainty about the future. Again, Lisa will talk to you about what she's hearing on the road when she's out talking to some of the promoters. I know that Eddie, from time to time, will get feedback from people who say, we might think about coming to your facility next year or the year after, but we're not sure whether there's going to be a facility there or whether it's going to be owned by the parish. So we think that's a key agenda item. We need to determine what's going to happen with the facility, and I know you guys are going to talk about that. It's a big decision, but we need to talk about that, and if we can eliminate that uncertainty, I think it is going to help us increase the percentage of utilization as we go forward. Secondly, as part of our near-term business strategy, we want to continue to use our SMG leverage through Lisa's division to bring more of these equestrian-related events into town. And thirdly, to use that marketing fund that I just talked about to attract those national and regional shows. They're going to need some seed capital and some incentives to come here. And the fourth thing is we would like to see if we could secure some sponsorship and advertising. This is something we've talked about. We've come very close in a couple of occasions to securing some sponsors out there. With the economy the way it is right now, discretionary income is down. Retail spending is down. It's a little more challenging in this area, but I still believe that we have an opportunity for a $25,000 or $50,000 sponsorship out there, fixed panel, pouring rights, whatever it may be. There's an opportunity there somewhere, and we've got to uncover it. And then finally, I believe that if we could secure that one signature event, and we had talked about doing a festival at one time, this country music jamboree. We came very close when you guys supported the bicentennial last year. That was I think it was a very big success for the parish. Financially, those events are very hard to operate in order to make money, and promoters are very leery about coming in here and spending, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 to put on a show when they're going to risk that much. There's got to be some return on that investment. It's been very challenging, I'll be honest with you, to get that signature event. We're still working with regional and national promoters to see if we can't do something over a 3-day period. I believe that's really one of the keys, because the events that we produce out there are really low margin. Let's face it, a lot of these these equestrian events, these livestock shows are operated by nonprofits, and it's fairly low margin business. If we had a signature event that we could do every year and make it a big deal, it could generate revenue for the facility, I think that's where the money really would lie, and you would be able to see a dramatic decrease in that deficit. So let's just summarize where we are. And I think just step back and look at the big picture for a minute. The good news is the operating performance is trending in the positive direction. The deficit has decreased every year since we took over, every year. And it's going to decrease again this year. Number two, the national strategy, the marketing strategy that we're employing now with the equestrian division is working. We got 2 events that have recently booked, one for December and one for April. The third thing is I would say to you that these facilities are not designed to make money. They're not profitable. We all know that, as you saw from the previous slide. But it does provide a quality of life for the citizens here. And that's something that we have to all consider. It's a very, very significant asset. You're basically talking about a $49 million complex out there. I think that's what the appraisal had indicated. $49 million asset. Now, I think the parish purchase is $7.5 million. So when you look at the asset that you have, yes, there is an operating deficit, and yes, there's a cost of doing business. And I would argue that the economic benefits are significant. We're starting to hear from the hotels. We're starting to hear from the restaurants. They're calling us now to get our event schedule. That's a positive sign. Why? Because they see increased traffic. They need to stock more provisions when they have customers in. They need to hire more staff. So all of those things, we're starting to hear it and we're starting to feel it. So I would say to you that the asset value and the economic benefits of that asset value are greater than the proposed purchase price, and therefore there's a cost or benefit to the cost of operation out there. With that, I'll conclude. I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity. This is really in response to your questions from the last meeting. I see here that there's also been a handout provided by the Parish Finance Department, which I think really is a good illustration of what I'm talking about. If you take a look at that top line, you see the adjusted net operating income, and then you fold in the expenses. I think it really does put it in perspective. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Before I do, I guess maybe it'd be appropriate for me to have Lisa come to the podium. I'd like for Lisa Williams to tell you a little bit about her facility, if you guys have a minute, and what she's doing on the national level and the events that we're bringing in.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you guys. I am the director of the Jacksonville Equestrian Center, and I've been involved in the Lamar-Dixon project for 4 years. I was on some of the initial meetings and have faced a lot of the same questions that Eddie is facing right now from the city of Jacksonville. And we have had the same slow progress that Lamar-Dixon is facing. What has really changed our position within the community is actually the Tourist Development Commission working with us to do good economic impact studies and to realize that our facility now brings in the second largest number of hotel rooms to the Jacksonville community. Most of these facilities, I'm also on the board of a national organization that comprises 120 equestrian centers or facilities that are only agriculturally based. We really, really do not make money. Profits. Some of our facilities that are privately owned have a small percentage of them that make a profit, but by and large, we're really economic drivers for the community. What we have been able to do, and because of the economic stimulus that these facilities provide, very many communities have now started to build these centers. And so the competition among local cities, counties, states, and also nationally for the larger events has really, really kind of ramped up. I began last March soliciting the National Barrel Horse Association to bring an event to Lamar-Dixon, and it literally took me until this week that I actually got a commitment from them to move an event from Mississippi to Louisiana. It's a momentous undertaking for them to move into a new market, and one of the things that I have constantly been kind of in the background, heard in the background, is just the uncertainty of Lamar-Dixon and where is it going to be in 2 years. Not the SMG management part of it, because they're familiar with the best practices and the type of event they're going to have when they go to one of our facilities, but just the uncertainty of whether the facility will be bought by the parish. I think that if we can clear that up, that will help us a little bit. But I also will tell you that, just like I said, 4 years ago, I think when I spoke before the people considering the project at that point, it really takes 4 years or so to get some of these larger events. So we have booked the National Barrel Horse. They're going to bring a national event in here in April. We have also worked with the National Team Roping League Association, and they're going to bring a regional event in December, which both of these groups are looking at not just a one-time event. It's actually going to be an event that stays here. We're looking for a 3-year contract for both of these events. So when I'm out there talking to national promoters, this facility is always one of the ones that I'm trying to work with. And if a promoter comes to me in Jacksonville, we try to send them through our network of facilities. So I hope that can shed a little bit. Again, I can answer any questions if you have.
Well, I guess just a comment. So basically, in short, SMG's position is that while the center has been losing money over the years, since you guys have taken over managing it, it's gotten less and less, and the biggest obstacle to making that even better and performing on par with some of your other facilities that you manage is the uncertainty surrounding the center.
I can speak to booking national events. The uncertainty has definitely impacted our ability to do that. Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Mr. Kluwat?
Yes, ma'am. The Jacksonville Center, who owns that?
The city of Jacksonville.
Thank you, ma'am. And within their ownership, I see you basically grading about the same as Lamar-Dixon.
Yes.
And I know the area is a pretty good horse area on both sides. So will you expect Lamar-Dixon to basically peak out at where we're at right now on your ability to make money, break even?
Are you asking if there's going to be growth? Is there growth potential?
Yes.
Well, I think there is growth potential because we're not talking about just equestrian and livestock shows. We're talking about car shows, RV shows, sportsman shows. There's all kinds of activities that can be placed in, and Lisa could speak to that as well. Lisa happens to be someone who is embedded in the equestrian facility, or equestrian marketplace, but she also does a wide variety of events at her facility. So I think that the answer is yes, there are a number of things that we can do.
Yes, I'm just basically looking at the Jacksonville facility, which you're showing in you.
Well,
that
we're
it's
about
on par with Lamar-Dixon
We're about
right now.
on par, but Jacksonville, we're halfway through our development. Again, we're only on phase 2 of a phase 4 project. Same thing as I see with Lamar, with all of these facilities. I think it's endless. I mean, if you look at, I'm just going to use as an example, the Kentucky Horse Park right now is adding on a second covered arena. I think that, again, it takes a lot to draw these events here, but the events are bigger and bigger. So I don't think that your growth is going to stagnate. I think that the more national events that we get into Lamar, the more exposure you're going to get. We were lucky in Jacksonville to get an international event 2 years ago, and just the exposure we got from that one event brought new promoters. So my goal is to keep bringing in new promoters here. I think that one of the things that has definitely impacted here, in Jacksonville we have a very strong local horse community that supports my facility. So a lot of the regional and national events are brought to me, or initially were brought to me through these local groups. I'm not so sure that Eddie has that SMG has that kind of support here, just because of the way that the politics, or I'm not even saying politics, I'm just not sure how the local community sees it. So I think the stronger we can come and get a bond with the local community, that's really going to help us.
Within your Jacksonville facility, your phase 2, 3, 4, Are you diversifying? Are you still you basically getting more horse area? Are you diversifying into other types of facilities within that grounds? Or?
We are. We do both. We are actually adding additional barns on for our larger equestrian events, but we've also branched out. We have a big classic car show and a festival that we've done. We actually we're co-promoting an event this Labor Day that's kind of mimicked off of an event that's held at the Georgia International Horse Park. They do a big swap meet and a flea market and a festival that they do. Now, we don't expect to make any money on it this year, but my goal is eventually 5 years from now, I think it's going to be a major staple in our community. We had to reach out to other types of events to really get the support of the community, because I don't think that, even though we bring in a lot of economic stimulus, I don't think that the non-horse world or non-equestrian world can understand what the community gets from a horse event. So we do reach out. We do small concerts, we do festivals, we do dog shows, we do truck shows, things like that. So we have branched out.
So, it's just like Lamar Dixon, based on the community involvement you have around you, which is a strong horse community, I know that. And but that you do reach out to other people in the community to have events that would interest them in that facility.
Correct.
Yes.
Explain what facility you have there.
I mean, at Jacksonville, all we have is we do not have a climate-controlled arena. We have an enclosed arena that has large fans. We have an 80,000-square-foot concourse space that surrounds it. We have 422 permanent stalls, and we have 4 outdoor arenas. And we luckily have a large, just grassy 20-acre field that we've actually just done about $1 million worth of improvements on so that we could do outdoor events. Just today I booked an event with Walmart Distribution Center, which is a company picnic for 2,000 people. So we've started to fill in some of our blind days, or just our outside days of our equestrian events. Now we really do I will tell you that 60% of our revenue comes from our equestrian events and our stalls and our RVs. Without our stalls and our RV park, we probably would not be where we are with our budget numbers.
Thank you, ma'am. Based on your analysis that the Jacksonville facility that you manage is that Lamar Dixon has more facilities in it right now, as far as
Yes.
diversified
Yes.
facilities. Thank
Yes.
Mr. Todd Lambert?
Yes, maybe a couple of y'all might want to answer these. It is in the city of Jacksonville, right? It's not in the county. The county has
No,
it's city only, right?
It's a city-owned, yes.
And-
It's
and
20
for-
miles outside of the center of the city of Jacksonville.
Okay, and far as the tax to help subsidize the loss, what is Jacksonville coming up with? Is it a sales tax, or is it a property tax, or are they using a tax to help offset the cost?
No, there was a
No
tax
tax.
used to build the facility,
Okay.
and some of our additions will be funded through a tax, but our loss is covered through our general fund.
General fund?
Yes.
Okay. One other thing, maybe out-of-town percentage of what's used at Lamar Dixon. Mr. Eddie might be able to tell us that also. What is the percentage of out-of-town people coming into our parish compared to what our local people are using Lamar Dixon?
We tried to do some economic projections based on those kinds of figures, and unfortunately we don't have the actual surveys, but of the total attendance, there was a study done a couple of years ago. I think they assumed that 46% of the people, the attendees that were coming here for events, were from outside the parish.
About 46%.
About 46%.
Roughly about half. Okay.
Yes.
That's all I have.
What
Thank
I
you,
would
Mr. Chairman.
suggest, just to follow up on that, I would encourage you guys to take a look at your sales tax collections, particularly
Thank you.
if you can get some of the sales
Thank you.
going on. Yeah, I think you're on the right track there.
Councilman Valentine?
Yes. What's the budget of Jacksonville?
We're just about $1 million.
Okay. What's the size of the main arena?
150 by 300.
Okay. How many seat? How much?
We have
what's the seating?
3,700 permanent seats, and we can put in another 2,800 on the floor.
Okay. And you say you total operating on budget. It was built by taxes,
Yes.
but there's no reoccurring taxes. What reoccurring income do you have other than events?
We
If you if you're only getting 60% of your budget, I think you made that statement a while ago.
No, 60% of my budget comes from the stalls and the RV
Rental?
park.
Okay.
The rest has to come from ancillary type events. So when I fill in my concerts or my other events, I will always keep the signature equestrian events as the bulk. That's our main core business. We fit in everything else around those main core events. And what I think you'll find is as Lamar attracts more national events or national organizations bringing you regional events, they don't want to move around. They want to stay. So most of our events, I would say 80% of our events are reoccurring. And we have either a 3-year or a 5-year contract. Now, at the end of that time, they may move within our region to another area, but then they will come back again. So
the city is responsible for all the maintenance, upkeep?
no, the city.
So you
is
guys do all the upkeep,
It's
maintenance?
funded through our budget. Yes.
Okay, so nothing supplement?
Correct.
Right? Okay. All right. That's all.
Any further discussion? Councilman Joseph.
Yes, any one of these arenas have a recreation program on the property site?
We actually do in Jacksonville. We have an aquatic center and a ball field that we actually use, and we actually do the facility management. I don't do the programming, but I handle the budgets for all the facility management for that portion of our facility too. That's about a $700,000 budget every year for those facilities. And I guess the way we interface is, again, it's an added attraction because we offer those amenities to the people that are coming to our facility.
Mr. Parish President.
So since you have that budget, the city's absorbing, similar to the parish, about the same amount of money per year.
Yes.
To their general fund. Pretty much equal to what we say from that. If you don't have any income,
Right.
the city's offsetting. How much was the tax that they passed to build a facility?
They had a 2-cent tax for every taxpayer, and it was in 2004. It was a 2-cent tax for everybody. Jacksonville's quite large. Prior to mine.
But it wasn't specifically for this. It was an area-wide tax.
Right, this was a portion of, the equestrian center was just one piece of what was built. There was also a new arena, roadways, and things like that.
You expansions rely basically on money that comes from your events.
No, we'll get that from capital. Again, we have to justify, I go before our city council and say, if I have 200 more stalls, I can attract these events. And basically, we've really been successful once the city realized the economic impact. I mean, when we were built, there was not a hotel within 12 miles of my facility. 4 years later, we now have 5 brand-new hotels within that area, a Walmart, a Home Depot, all the ancillary things that would probably not be on the west side of Jacksonville if the equestrian center wasn't there.
If nobody else has any questions, I want to thank Doug. We had gotten together and talked about, a lot of times we listen to what they're saying, but I don't know if we fully understood what was going on. And so what we decided to do this time was to kind of separate the two as far as the operating cost. And I just want to go over, from the parish's perspective, where we are and what the costs are that we're incurring, and maybe explain to you a little bit about that also. I think all of you have a historical financial data sheet from Lamar Dixon. And if you go to projected 2008, we are taking into consideration the I guess bottom line with SMG as far as the operating deficit there, and it's $143,793. Lease purchase payments, $225,000. If you see from 2007 till now, it went down because the interest rates went down, and it's I think tied to the consumer index. Property insurance, you got a $20,000 balance now. Prior to this, we were paying for an insurance policy, and then we decided evidently to come under the parish's umbrella, which now that from 2007 January to I guess 2008 January 2007 December 2007. That's actually, if you want doing it next year, it would cost $50,000 a year. So you could reduce that number by 50 from 2007. Commissary lease, that's what you give to the Economic Development Corporation. It's $30,000 this year, and you gave $39,000 last year. So, and the rest is for accounting services. So, total losses projected as far as the parish this year is going to be $244,337, and if you add it to the SMG figures, it'll end up being $388,130.82. So you see it's gone down significantly over the past few years. I don't think there's anything that we do. I'm not quite sure if I can find anything that we do that make money as a government. I don't think we're in business to make money. We're in business to provide services and quality of life things. So, but when we get to the next portion, as far as the proposition, I'll kind of give you some data and show you how the money would fall in the event that the tax did pass, and put it to you.
Well, Mr. President, let's do this. I'd like to go ahead and move that item since we are kind of talking about it. I'm going to go ahead and move the resolution up to now. I'll read agenda item number 8, which will move up. The resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy and collection for a period of 20 years of a special 3 mil ad valorem tax therein for the purpose of the purchase and maintenance of and improvements to the Lamar Dixon Expo Center, making application to the State Bond Commission, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead.
If this tax were to pass, what we're looking at, of course, is probably bonding out $12 million to go ahead and climate control the 4-H building and the main arena, do some repairs. The purchase price would be $7.5 million, as per the agreement that the previous council made with Lamar Dixon as far as lease purchase. So we would follow those guidelines. I am also negotiating with the Dixons and the Lamar Dixon Foundation, even take some of those restraints out. So by next Tuesday, when the actual council meeting is, I should have a finished document there. But if you bonded $12 million to purchase the arena, purchase the building, all the properties, and also climate control, you're looking at about $12 million. On that, your debt service would end up being about $850,000. The 3 mil property tax would bring in about $2.3 million. Your interest on that $2.3 million would be about $30,000 a year. So your total revenues would be $2,330,000. Your expenditures would then be $850,000 for the debt service. Insurance would be $100,000. Accounting services $10,000. And we averaged out an estimated loss from the management company to $200,000, with your total expenditures being at $1,160,000. That would leave you a balance every year of $1,170,000 to expand the facility or to do some expenditures or update the facility in any other way. So that's basically what we were looking at. That's what the proposal would do on a 3 mil property tax.
Do I have a motion on the resolution?
I'd like to offer a motion that we move the resolution.
A motion by Councilman Thompson.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Kluot. Discussion. Councilman Valentine.
Do we have what you just read to us, Tommy, in front of us?
No, I just kind of put that for me. Do you want? I will be glad to make it right now.
No. Well, I would like to refer to it, but that's all right.
Do you? Okay, we do have them, George.
Okay, good. Certainly, this is an item that that is controversial and passionate to a lot of people. I guess, Parish President, this was on the agenda last week, and naturally we passed for good reason because we hadn't even discussed it. And I got a proposed budget if the tax passed in from it, but I still don't have a plan. We don't have any plan. We still don't have. We're going to the people, as our poll showed, it's roads, roads, roads. And as the poll showed, that people were willing to support tax items if there's a plan. But yet here we are, fixing to put something on the ballot and vote on it, and we don't have a plan. And that disturbs me. I guess my question is, how did you decide, because it was your decision, how did you decide you was going to run or you was going to try for millage, a property tax, 3 mills? Explain that process to me.
Well, Mr. Valentine, that's just a proposal that I put together, and certainly you have other options. For the plan, I mean, it's kind of, I think Lamar Dixon's plan's been set up. We've done a master plan there. We've done a couple of master plans as far as any recreational activities to add on to it. I mean, we're just trying to figure a way to put together a budget, and by doing that budget, have the money there available to implement some of the plans that's already been in existence. Now, you got 2 or 3 options here. I mean, you can vote tonight, or you can vote in December, or you can vote in whenever, but to cancel a lease at any time, okay? So if it's not the wishes of the council that Ascension Parish government own Lamar Dixon, I don't think the Dixons have any problem with that either. So, I mean, we got to look at options. This is certainly just an option as far as the millage. If you have any other options, we would be certainly willing to entertain those options. But again, this is something that's been hanging around. It's coming to a closure. We got, I guess, maybe a little less than a year left on our option. So I don't want to wait till July of next year and we get up here and start arguing and trying to get in an argument on what we're going to do with Lamar Dixon. I think it's time to put it to rest. I think the people of the parish have heard about it enough in the past 3 years and argued about it. You know, the most fair way to do something is to put it on the ballot, let the people of this parish vote on it. I mean, a millage just seemed like a right thing as far as the financial aspects of it. I think we clearly got a message last week when we looked at the poll results that what the parish, people of this parish priorities were and what they wanted to do with the half-cent sales tax that we put before them. Now, if you want to go with a half-cent sales tax, I certainly don't have a problem with that. I mean, by putting together the budget, we're giving you the information that you need, and if you want to go out and pay for another plan, I'll be certainly glad to entertain that motion also. But we got to put this to rest. And I mean, this just, I mean, this is my plan. This is what I'm proposing to you. You're going to have to make the final decision on. I haven't seen any other plans come forth, but this is what I'm proposing to you. Now, we can modify that, talk about it, and all come to some sort of agreement. I certainly don't. I mean, this is not set in stone. This is just a proposal to you.
Well, I mean, and that's the part. It is a wonderful facility. Even though I got pegged, I don't like the facility. The facility is a great facility, and I'd hate to see the facility go to pot, so to speak. We've had opportunities. We've had options in the past. The Dixons have had options in the past and chose to stick with the parish. You know that for a fact. I mean, we've had 3 different entities that wanted to buy Lamar Dixon. 2 of the entities wanted to maintain the equestrian part of it and actually put money in it and keep it going. We've even had a local entrepreneur who wanted to buy it, and he didn't specifically want to keep the equestrian part, but he was offered to buy it, turn it into whatever facility, movie studio or whatever. You discussed that with some people that were interested in turning it into a movie studio and essentially amusement park, building a hotel and everything. All those have went by the wayside. We've continued to hold on and have the people of Ascension Parish foot the bill for Lamar Dixon. And it is a lease option to purchase. We have lost all the money that we put on the lease so far. None of that is going toward, the public needs to understand that. None of that is going toward the purchase of this. We still have the purchase price of $7.5 million. I guess one of the things, and Mr. Thornton, I appreciate you. I admire Mr. Thornton. He had a heck of a job that he had to do with the Superdome, and he did it. And I commended him already in public. I'm going to commend him again. He did a good job. But the reason we would get our report every month the way we did, because we wanted to know actually what the parish was putting in and what benefits we were reaping. And as the city of Jacksonville reaps the benefit, the city of Gonzales, by all economic studies that have been done on this facility, the city of Gonzales is the recipient of most, if not 80%, of all the revenue that is derived from this facility. And they don't share in anything, and that's fine. In fact, recently you may have saw that they stopped improvement of the little heritage village and decided to put their money on roads, which is commendable for the city council. Be that as it may, this facility does continue to lose money, as Mr. Thornton, when he made his presentation, said it would. They had 18 facilities at that time, several years ago. None of them made money. We continually got compared to the facility in Phoenix, and none made money. The general public needs to understand, if the parish takes this over, it's going to lose money. It's just inevitable. It's just the way it is, unless there's something done to enlarge the main arena, air conditioning, just as the parish president has promised, that would be within this situation as far as heating and airing it, okay? Be that all that said, I understand your dilemma, parish president, because that was one of the things you wanted to do, is make sure that we either up or down. And I'm certainly not going to vote against giving it to the people, because I voted 2 years ago to give it to the people, because they need to decide. I just don't think that this is the best option to give it life and give it a shot for it to survive. Property tax is going to be very difficult, especially with the $10,000 we spent on a poll that shows that there's about 35% actual absolute against paying for this facility. And so that's my comment, and I may have some later, but that's all I have right now.
Okay. I'd like to make a comment, actually. First, Mr. President, I appreciate you bringing this proposal forward, and just it's obviously a thorny and kind of complex issue. There's arguments on both sides of this, but as far as setting that deadline for getting this resolved one way or the other for the end of the year, like we've been saying for months, this is just an option, is the way I look at it, and we can decide to put this to the people, and they can make the choice as they see fit, and once they carefully weigh each side of the equation. I too would not like to see the parish lose the facility, but obviously the current situation's untenable, and this is a way to, if this were to pass, this would be a way to move it from perhaps from the red into the black and really make the best of that situation. So I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I'd like to encourage other council members, if they have alternative plans, what exactly, to take some initiative and bring those forward. This is one option. So, Councilman Lambert.
Yes. The reason I asked Doug a little bit earlier about the percentage of outside people coming into the parish, and I think once we purchase this piece of property, with the increase in events that's going to be stationary, knowing that we own the facility, it's going to be more people coming from out of town. So as of right now, we're 50%. So we're looking at out-of-town people coming in that's going to be buying stuff at our restaurants, sales tax. And, you know, the deal is half our people are better than half our people will never use Lamar Dixon. There's some that probably will never make it to Lamar Dixon, but yet they're still going to pay a property tax for 20 years. Talking about fair, I think the fair thing to do, I got some numbers today from our financial secretary, which a 1.8% sales tax, parish-wide. Now this is parish-wide, City of Gonzales also, so we can get funding where we are benefiting from. It's going to yield $2.6 million a year, better than what the 3 mil property tax is going to bring in. And it's a 1.8. We got a half cents left to play with, and this is a 1.8%. So being fair to the people of this parish, I don't think it's fair to put a 3 mil property tax on a lot of people that's going to be paying it and they're not going to use Lamar Dixon, because over 50% of the people are coming from outside. Let's tax the people when they use the facilities in our parish and the city, and we'll benefit better that way. So my substitute motion tonight would be that we bring forward a 1.8% sales and use tax parish-wide instead of a 3 mil property tax.
Okay, I have a substitute motion on the floor for one proposition on the ballot for a 1/8 cent sales tax from Councilman Todd Lambert. Do I have a second?
I'm a second for discussion.
Second by Councilman Valentine. Discussion.
Yes. Gentlemen, the problem was, you know what? This is deja vu. Problem with this is where we were last year at the same time. We had a parish president that had already said he wasn't going to run again, and he tried to bring taxes to us, the same situation. And I appreciate it, Mr. Parish President. I really do. I know you made a promise to do this. But the problem is I don't have an option, because the first time I saw we was going to do a tax was last week. Now, I could get one for you, but it's not like I can pull one out tonight. I admire Mr. Lambert with his 1/8 of a cent, because that's what we wanted to do 2 years ago, and it got vetoed by the former parish president. And if that would have went through, we'd have been either had Lamar Dixon and it would have been on its way, or it would be back with Miss Mary Lee, and she'd be doing whatever she needed to do with it. And you know, I second the guy so we can vote on it. I mean, this rush to judgment it's just got me in a quandary here. And you know, we got elected to make sure we made right decisions. And yes, we've been talking about this for 4 years. And yes, I got my opinion on it. But let's come with a plan. We don't have a plan yet. I understand what you're saying, Parish President, but we don't have a plan.
Councilman Thompson.
Joe the first.
Sorry, Councilman Joseph. I know you've been waiting. Sorry.
Look, I'm all in favor of Lamar Dixon. I'm one of them that speak on it all the time. My concern is, though, right now, is that understanding you pass a 3 mil tax on this property, on this thing. Over 20 years, you're going to collect over $40 million. I mean, the number's 2 times 20, $40 million. And the president just said we're going to have a surplus to do other things, about $1 million on Lamar Dixon. And I'm a recreation guy. I mean, this plan does not say that these funds are going to go out parish-wide to recreation. It only says it goes out to Lamar Dixon. You know, we're doing a survey too, asking the public what do they want in recreation. And currently, you know, the $1.6 million we get for recreation does not do the job. You know, with this mill, with that extra money, you know, I would put up a substitute motion that we take that man in the money and put it to a parish-wide recreation. You know, George also say we don't have a plan. But if this our plan right here, once again, it only state Lamar Dixon. That's it. So when you pass this this right here, all this money only is for Lamar Dixon. That's it. And I'm all for Lamar Dixon. But on the other hand, I got 110,000 people out there in the public is always hopping about recreation, and it's growing. You know, I have to agree on one thing. We need a plan. This is a plan, Mr. President, and it gives you the figures, it gives you everything. But it does not tell me anything about the rest of the parish. And I would love to have that $1.1 million to go to the rest of the parish. And that way would be fair across the table when we pass this millage for everyone. So I would put a substitute motion that we add parish-wide recreation into that.
Okay, substitute motion that we include parish, we include in this 3 mil
To improve
proposal
parish-wide recreation.
that it goes for recreation in general. Okay, do I have a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Discussion, Mr. Kluwat.
Look, maybe Eddie and Mr. Thornton could help us, but basically, do you guys ever see Lamar Dixon as a money-making facility? We have two ways to look at this. We represent people. It's looked at as a business facility to bring in a certain amount of business and economic development, bring in some large things. But we also, the taxpayers of the parish, look at it as a large potential recreation facility. I'm pretty sure, Mr. President, we don't make any money at any of our other recreation facilities, do we, sir?
No, sir.
$1.2 million to be exact is what we spend on other.
Yeah. And it's not enough, right, Mr. Joseph?
No, sir.
Okay. No doubt we need a plan for the best break even, and I'm sure that you have one. You didn't just come here with one sheet of paper. But the fact is, I guess the main deliberation right now, I think this council is in agreement that Lamar Dixon is a great facility that we'd like to see survive in Ascension Parish and maintain its initial potential for equestrian events and blossom into a large recreation facility to a point that it can be used by the residents of the parish, the people that pay the tax. That's pretty much going to be here, whether they're paying it on the sales tax side or the property tax side. They're going to do they're in for the long haul. So, with that said, do we have a plan? What's our potential based on when we go forward, no matter who's retaining management, whether it be Eddie and you guys or whoever, whatever?
I mean, Randy, Lamar Dixon had a plan for that center since its inception, okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, we talking about something. We've had an agreement, lease purchase for 3 years. Nobody's said anything more about a plan. I mean, we've been sitting here as a new council, a new parish president for 7 months. I haven't heard anybody offer any options. I haven't seen anything come from the Recreation Committee about Lamar Dixon and a proposal or a plan other than the one that we called for. The state put up $50-something million to do a plan for Lamar Dixon. Now, I'm not here tonight trying to sell Lamar Dixon to you. I'm trying to bring closure to something.
Thank you.
This has been here and beat around the bush for 3 years. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you don't want Lamar Dixon, or we're going to sit here and argue about it for the next year, it's not going to matter, because at that point you have to make a decision whether to renew the lease or cancel the lease. And I pretty much know what your desires are going to be at that time. So that's okay. I think that's okay with Miss Dixon.
Yeah.
She just wants to clear it up too. She's kind of tired of her name being thrown around.
Chris.
And as far as any of these other options that she had, certainly. She built this facility with her money and wanted it to be something for Ascension Parish and wanted Ascension Parish to own it. Now, if we don't want to own it, that's okay with her. She can do what she wants. She can bulldoze it down. These other options, we had no say-so in those options. We don't own Lamar Dixon. We just leasing it. That's her decision. And if you talk to her, which I'll give any of you her phone number, she can give you reasons why she didn't get into any of those things. But it's easy to point fingers and say, well, she could have did this, she could have did that. You don't know the intricate details because we never were part of those negotiations because it's not our facility. If we buy it, then it'll be something that we can deal with.
Well, that's my point.
You know?
I want to buy it.
If you want to buy it, I'm giving you an option. If you want to go with a half-cent sales tax, you got that option. If you want to cancel the lease, you got that option. If you want to change it to where it's parish-wide recreation, you got that option. I'm not here trying to sell a program. I'm trying to put closure to something that should have been closed long ago. I can't speak for the previous administration, the previous parish president, previous council. That's not what we're here to do. I mean, we got to make a decision. Now, you can wait till February. I think there's another election cycle in if you want to look at it. But, you know, she may decide to do something else with the facility in between. In fact, there is another option out there that's being talked about. But I'm not going to talk about it tonight because that's her business also. So my point is tonight, I mean, you're going to have to vote on this one way or the other. You can vote. We don't have to put it on the ballot. I mean, it's all your option. I gave a plan. I seen nobody else come up with a plan. So that's where we're at tonight. Now, I mean, I'm willing to work with you any way you want to work.
Councilman Thompson.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to commend the Dixon on building such fine facility. And I also want to commend Parish President Martinez for trying to put this to bed to bring some closure to this. We have talked about this a long time. It's a great facility. Once again, we hear some of us talk about recreation. Recreation, we don't make money off recreation. It's got kids that ride horses, that does a lot of equestrian stuff, that live here in the parish, and I think they need the opportunity to have their own facility. It's a great facility, and I support buying it. Whether we use the plan that Parish President Martinez came up with, or the sale tax that Councilman Lambert come up with. I think we need to move forward, quit talking about it, and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman, I wanted to address the question that was asked earlier about whether it will ever show a profit. I wanted to answer that for you as best I can. Certainly, it's hard to say, you know, what the future will hold, but I think we've said repeatedly that these type of facilities they're not money makers. They're not meant to be money makers. I think you can see from the figures that we've shared with you tonight on an operating basis, and you strip out all the other things that go with it, the facility has a reasonable chance to break even, maybe even in some years make a little money. And in other years, when the cycles are down and the events are not traveling because of the economy or whatever, you might be in a deficit position. I can't sit here and tell you that it's going to be a moneymaker for you year over year, and it's going to cash flow, and it's going to be self-supportive. That probably will not be the case. It would not be a fair statement for me to make. But I do think you stand a reasonable chance because of the quality of the facility, the marketing that we're doing, the words getting out. I think you have a reasonable chance that it can come close to a break-even proposition down the road. And some years it might even make a little bit. Some years, yes, it's going to lose. Now, that's before you factor in some of the other costs. Let's not forget that you've got to maintain the asset. You've got to probably put capital into it in the future, as the parish president has programmed into his forecast. So, and the second thing I wanted to comment on was the plan. It's, you know, the business plan. We shared that with you earlier, our near-term strategy. Every year when we present the budget, we present it with a business plan. And that business plan obviously has been working because the deficit has been going down. Now, there are two types of plans. I mean, there's an operating plan for running the facility, and then there's the master plan for capital improvements and expansion and that sort of thing. So I would say to you that we do have an operating plan, and it seems to be working fairly well because the deficit's decreasing.
Mr. Zahn, please note that Councilman Bell is now present. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, would like to thank the parish president for bringing this issue forward, and I also believe that this facility is, like everyone else, a jewel that if we can utilize it and keep it open would be a great asset to the parish. And I could support either one of these resolutions to fund it. Is there, and education here, is there a possible way to let the voters decide vote for it or against it, and if they decide to vote for it, which would be the best way, or which way would they support to fund it, whether it be through a property tax or the sales tax, and give them the ultimate decision.
I don't think you can do that. I'm not sure. I'm not an attorney, but maybe Mr. Chevalier and Mr. Can you put two propositions on the ballot?
Not necessarily two propositions, but could you allow it to where the voters could have a choice on which, if they decided to support it, to which way they would allow to
Fred
fund it?
Chevalier with Jones Walker. Absolutely, you can do that. We've done it from time to time.
How complicated would it be, Fred?
Well, it's not real complicated for me, but it might be kind of complicated for the people when they read it, try to figure out. You know, we just have to be careful the way you write it, so it's very easy to understand that you know, you're going to vote for one over the other, and whichever one gets the most votes wins, that kind of thing, or whatever. It's just it's tricky to write, but it's not real complicated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think if that's the thing. Let's get this thing out there. Let's let the people decide. That's what we're here to do. It's been out there long enough, and if the people decide we want to keep the facility and they're willing to support it, then by all means let's do it. If they're not willing to support it, then let's get out of it. I mean, let's put this issue to bed like we've been talking about, and get beyond it. We've got other issues we need to move on to, and again, I think it's a good facility that we need to support if the people are willing to do it.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yeah, you know, we do have a half-cent sales tax. Mr. President said we probably could use that half cents. But no, I'm not for that, using that whole half-cent sales tax. That's why I've asked for just a 1/8% of it. As you know, the poll stated transportation is number one. We're going to need as much as we can for transportation. Our kids are dying on the highways now because of our substandard roads, and that is my top priority. And you know, this is coming to us ahead of transportation, which I'm a little leery about it, but I'd rather still, the fair way to do it would be to go with the sales tax, because there's a lot of people in this parish got the homes that's going to be paying these property tax. Yes, it's probably not maybe $27, $30 a year added to their bill, but down the road there's going to be some more taxes pop up. You know, there's needs in the parish. We got sewer coming up. That's number 3 priority in the parish to improve. So the little 1/8, I think that is the fairest way that we could go with this, and you know, for the people that don't use it, that has a large homes that would be paying property tax. Everybody, you know, buys something, out of town people coming in to Lamar Dixon want to help fund this facility. So I'm for still the sales tax.
Councilman Valentine.
Parish President, one more time. I guess, and I'm not sure if Mr. Thompson or Mr. Joseph brought it up. We had a plan done by SJB, which you're very familiar with. You used to work for the guys. So, but this was never right. Senator Amadei gave $65,000, and the choice was made by administration, brought to this council. They wanted to do a master plan, but we never adopted it. They brought it to us and never adopted it, and that's my point. My point is, what are we going to do with it? We're just going to leave it like it is, or are we going to build soccer fields, or are we going to build baseball fields? We're going to build it at Lamar Dixon. I mean, people need to know that, because if we plan on consolidating our recreation, doing away with changing baseball fields on one side of the parish to another, because that's what part of this study was about, consolidating baseball and recreation at Lamar-Dixon. I mean, we turned down a huge TND by Mr. Grizzaffi on Highway 30 because it was too close to industry. So are we going to move all our facilities here? That's what I mean by it. We didn't adopt, this council hadn't adopted this plan. So what is the plan? I mean, that's my question. I mean, the people need to know. If they're going to vote on something, they need to know what we're going to do with it. We're going to get it on the ballot, that's fine. But somebody needs to come up with a plan so we can show the public, so they can make a honest decision on whether they want to continue to fund this. And one more thing before I got the floor. I don't think that Miss Mary Lee built the facility in order to turn it over to Ascension Parish. That was never in the mission statement. That was never stated. It's at the point where they could not maintain the facility, and they decided to look at options to let different people, which they went to LSU, which they went to other people to see about doing it. And it didn't pan out. And Ascension Parish stepped in and took it over to try to make something of it. And we're at where we're at today.
I'm going to answer your first question. Your first comment first, okay? Lamar-Dixon, it was never in this master plan. It was never stated to, it's just a concept, but it was never stated to consolidate all the recreation facilities there. In the plan, if you read it, it's going to say you're going to maintain your community parks and your parks that you have now. What those parks would do would bring in your tournament teams now that fight to get our fields every week, and it would be a moneymaker. It would not be it would not interfere with your neighborhood parks and your parish program unless they wanted to have their big tournaments there or whatever. So and all this is a plan. It's a concept. Now there is the plan within the mission statement that says anything of quality of life that can be there for the citizens of Ascension Parish can be built on that facility. Okay, so that encompasses a lot. Or educational. And if you read through the whole thing and you read through that plan, it will show that. Now, I guess the other thing, as far as Mary Lee Dixon ever, her plan was to turn it over to the parish. Well, when I was parish president the first time, she called me over there. I think she called Robert Cluart over there, and she called to her house. Said, look, I want to give Ascension Parish something. I want to give them $12 million to build an equestrian center in Ascension Parish. And we sat there, and I think Randall Aldridge was at the meeting also from the school board. And he said, I want to do something for Ascension Parish. It's been good to me. I think we were all pretty much in agreement and said, you know, Miss Mary Lee, if we're glad that you want to do that, but why don't you go ahead and build a facility? Because we tend to mess things up when we try to build things. And of course, with public money or private money, you can build a facility a lot cheaper and get a lot more bang for your bucks. You won't have to follow the same stringent laws that we do. And that was pretty much the way it started. And at $12 million ended up being $59 million. But as far as the intent, yes. And her deal is this. And I will get on the phone or bring her over here. And her deal is, look, I want to give Ascension Parish the first option on this property. Because in the beginning, that's what it was meant to be for the people of Ascension Parish. Now, again, I'm going to go back and say, we just need to decide. There is a mission statement. Within that mission statement, there is a plan, okay? Where the land and the building should continue to be. And, you know, as far as building you a concept and a drawing of we're going to have more arenas or we're going to have more, which direction we're going in, no, I think that's something that can be decided. But right now, the main thing is to secure the facility if we want to secure it. If we don't want to, I promise you, Mary Lee Dixon will be happy that if we don't want it. She doesn't want to hurt the parish. She does not want Lamar Dixon to be a burden to Ascension Parish any longer. She's tired of it. She wants to bring it to closure. I said it since January, December, that we needed to bring this thing to closure. And that's all I'm trying to do here. And Mary Lee Dixon will not argue with you one. She won't be mad. She won't be upset. If Ascension Parish said, look, we don't want the facility, she'll do what she wants with it. She'll make a lot more money on it, and she'll sell it. One of the things that you look at, if you want to have a high school graduation here, where else are you going to have a high school graduation to fit the people? I mean, Gonzales is also part of Ascension Parish. We collect a lot of drainage tax here. If you want to go and look how much sales tax we do collect, and if you do a millage is parish-wide. All those businesses that's collecting those taxes are also going to be paying that millage. So, I mean, we could go around in circles and we could say one or another. That's not my point here. I'm not here to argue with Mr. Valentine or Mr. Lambert or anybody else here. I mean, we need to bring this to a close. Either we want it or we don't. If we don't want it, we just need to be men enough to say, hey, we love the facility. It's a great thing, but we don't want to own it. Or we can do another option. We can let the people decide if they want to own it. So that's all I'm asking here tonight. I'm not here promoting or not promoting anything. I just want to bring it to a closure. And I think that everyone here feels the same way. And if you want to cut it to 2 meals, a meal and a half, and Mr. Joel, if you want to put a meal property tax parish-wide for recreation, I salute you. I don't have a problem with that. But let's keep Lamar Dixon one item. I don't think the people in recreation that I've talked to, the baseball people, other people, they don't want it tied together, okay? So if you want to do something for recreation, if you want to cut this to 2 meals, you could be right on the edge. You could probably make it. If you want to go with Mr. Lambert's 1/8 of a cent sales tax, you're not here to argue. I'm not here to argue about how you do it. I just want to bring it to a closure.
Any further discussion? Councilman Bell.
Parish President, I'd like to also commend you for your efforts. I had the occasion to be in a few meetings the President took me with to Mrs. Dixon, and everything he's saying tonight, he said at that table with her, and she's in agreement. She wants the best for this parish. She will not hurt this parish. If it means we give it up, we give it up. She'll take care of it. I thank you for your efforts, sir.
Okay, we have a substitute motion on the table for an 8-cent sales tax.
Could you repeat the motion?
It is Mr. Bell is for a 8-cent sales tax to fund Lamar Dixon to put that proposition on the ballot. Ms. Suzanne, I'll ask for a roll call. On the substitute motion, yes.
Councilman Kluwai.
No.
Councilman Benny Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Adrian Thompson.
Yes.
Councilman Valentine.
Yes.
Councilman Bell.
No.
No.
Substitute motion passes.
This would be on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Passes to the Councilman Johnson. Yes, this is just to go to the full council for the next meeting.
Full council at that time has the option to do anything they like then too.
All right. Back to the agenda. Item number 6, the annual review of the budget allocation for volunteer Ascension. Executive Director Audrey Boudreau. Before she gets up here, I'd also like to recognize, I believe she has some members of the board who have been patiently waiting in the audience. I'd like to recognize them for all their hard work that they do for us in the parish, and all that volunteer obviously takes a lot of time. We want to thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Lower and committee members. And you're right. A board member that comes on Volunteer Ascension's board knows ahead of time that they are a working board and not an advisory board. And these are some really hard-working people that we've had for 10 and a half years, a little bit more than 10 and a half years in Volunteer Ascension. Before you is a brochure that I passed out, and in that brochure are numbers from last year that we have, because our programs are just kind of completing some of them that we have now, so those numbers are from 2007. Let me update you just really briefly on the numbers so far for this year. We just finished packing about 4 o'clock this afternoon, 2 full days of a lot of volunteers and 50,000 school supply items, the school supplies for the children in need in the parish. And those numbers, we had 185 volunteers that put in 577 hours to provide those school supplies to the children in need in our parish, so that we can keep them on a level playing field in the classroom with the supplies that they need to learn on the same level. Our uniform program also just ended. Unfortunately, the nature of those 2 programs is they both happen at the same time, and there are 2 major programs that are the hardest, that take the most volunteers. We have now recently just added a 3rd part-time person at Volunteer Ascension, including myself. There are 3 part-time people that work at Volunteer Ascension. We're hoping that our funding continues, that we can keep 3, because our capacity has grown so much since the storms that it now takes that many people and thousands of volunteers all throughout the year to do our programs. Our school uniform program had 40 volunteers that put in over 250 hours and sorted over 5,600 uniform items that we that were recycled and new, that we purchased through a collaboration with St. Vincent de Paul's Uniform for Kids to get some new and new uniforms to the students in need so that they can begin school. And that happened July 31st and August 1st. So those uniforms were distributed to the children and parents who showed up for our distribution. And then the rest of the uniforms that weren't distributed are always divided, and those uniforms go out to the schools on the end of that second day of distribution. So there were uniforms in all the schools, kindergarten through 8th grade, throughout the parish schools, ready for children who maybe did not make that distribution to go out to them. So those things are there, and the school supplies will be are in the schools. Most of the schools today. By tomorrow, the rest of them will be there. So by the end of the first week, the school supplies are there for those children as well. Our Connect Teens program had about 20 participants this year. I do not have all of their hours back, but I'll give you an update on that another time. And our Make a Difference Day projects, Make a Difference Day happens in October. However, because we've had more of a need to do some of the wheelchair ramps or repairs and things for the elderly impoverished people throughout our parish, we have kind of taken that all year long, and we just report on that in October when the National Make a Difference Day happens all over the country. Right now, we have 3 wheelchair ramps that we are fixing to construct and go through. It'll probably take us about another 6 weeks or 2 months to get those 3 completed and done. Just to let you know, we had some extra funding came in so that we could do 3. We normally only have enough funding to do 1 because the cost of supplies has gone up so much for that. So we're very fortunate to have gotten an extra donation where we can do actually 3 for some elderly people to connect them with the outside world again, so that they can have a little bit better quality of life. And our community services program goes on year-round with calls that we service for people who are in temporary need of assistance, families that are in temporary need of assistance with electric bills or food or clothing or other things. We compile that data that the churches and agencies throughout the parish provide, and we send that data back to them so that they can eliminate duplication of services and provide better services for those. And those numbers won't be in until the end of the year. When you look on the inside cover of the brochure, it states in the second paragraph that in 2007 Volunteer Ascension provided over $780,000 in services and volunteer hours to the parish through our programs and our events. Just to let you know that this year we are almost to that number again, and we don't even have the thousands of dollars that are going to come through our community service program. So we're going to far exceed that number this year. Sometimes that just happens with the programs and or the events that we have that generates more volunteer hours or more services that happen. And our calls that we receive for assistance, I have said this before, but some of the councilmen are new. The first year I was at Volunteer Ascension was in 2003. I fielded probably about 400 calls for people in temporary need of assistance or people wanting to volunteer or needing volunteers or whatever services we needed. Of course, the storms blew that wide open, and we're now at about 2,200 per year. So that's the need for the extra people in the office to just do that, and our programs have grown tremendously as well. So that's just kind of a little update for you that I wanted to give you. I want to impart some great news. We had someone donate the building of a website for Volunteer Ascension, and if you'll go to www.volunteerascension.org, it says under construction. It's almost complete, and so we will now have that where people can volunteer, see the things that we're doing, and pull up our press releases as well as volunteer or sign up as if they need volunteers somewhere. So that's going to be great. That's coming in. I'm here tonight for our annual request to put our allocation for Volunteer Ascension from the parish back into the 2009 budget, and that's why I visited y'all tonight, but I wanted to give y'all that little update as well.
Thank you, Audrey. Appreciate that, and of course, all the work you do. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert and second by Councilman Kluwat. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Next up is change order for sprinkler system at new fire station in Fire District Number 1. Mr. Gene Wietek.
You should have two change orders up there. The first one is a reduction of the cost of $112,000 with several cost-saving things that were negotiated between the board, 7th District Fire Department, and the contractor. The second change order was a sprinkler system, alarm system mandated by the State Fire Marshal's Office. That will be a cost of $14,000. The sum will be a savings of $98,000 between the two.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, next is our monthly finance department sales and use tax report. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. This is based on the July 2008 collections. Our East Ascension drainage half-cent tax is year-to-date at 14.19% above compared to last year. And it's actually down a little bit from our budget of 1.37%. Sales tax year-to-date compared to last year is up 12.47%, and compared to the budget it's increased 14.94%. And our half-cent sales tax year-to-date compared to last year is up 13.14%, and compared to budget is 14.19%. And just a few comments. Our residential permits are down year-to-date 39%, and Ascension Parish is realizing a correction from post-Katrina sales. Nationwide, the decline in the housing market is reported to be worse than the economists predicted. If you go to page 2, this is just showing you the distribution of how the sales tax is dispersed. Our general fund has a budget from the sales tax of $6.2 million. It represents 45% of the total budget of the general fund, which is $13.8 million. Out of that, about 25% or $3.5 million is mandated expenses from by the state. Our road and bridge receives $5.1 million from the sales tax, and that is about 83% of its expenses. Recreation's getting 1.2%, 1.2 million, and that's about 74% of its total budget. And it's actually above right now 70% of the budget, and it's due because of our sales taxes, the increase in our sales taxes. And you can see the rest of the distribution of where the sales tax money goes and the percents of the budget at this point. Our next chart reflects an estimate of what sector sales tax are collected in for our parish using just the 1 cent sales tax. Petrochemical and industry and their suppliers is at 49%. Consumer retail is at 32%. Motor vehicle is at 12%. And business to business is at 7%. The next chart we have compares the year-to-date 08 to 07. Consumer retail is up by 12.4%. Motor vehicle is down by 7.6%. Business to business is down 23.9%. And petrochemical and industry and their suppliers are up 27.5%. The next chart is just a history chart comparing on all three of our taxes from 98 to 2008. That's the sales tax report. I also have our financial report for the second quarter of 2008. Revenues for the second quarter, overall revenues are at 40%. All revenues of the parish are at anticipated level for the second quarter of 2008, except building permits are down approximately, that says 8%, but it's actually 22% from budget. Quarterly revenues such as franchise fees, state rebate, beer tax, and state share severance are not reflected as they are received in late July and early August. They also have some grant codes that need to be amended due to a carryover from 07. And our interest is not dispersed to year-end. Expenditures, overall expenditures are at 43%. We do have some codes that appear to be over the budget, but are due to encumbrances and acquisitions that have already been purchased for the year. There are a few line items showing no budget, but the departments are monitoring and will address during their 2008 and 2008 amended 2009 budget process, which has already started. And based on total expenditures, all funds are within the budget at this point, except for Lighting District number 4, which is approximately 10% over the budget. Just a note, Lamar Dixon lease payments have decreased approximately 33% over last year due to the decrease in the LIBOR rate, which determines the payment amount. We are monitoring each department and meeting with directors as necessary to make adjustments to ensure spending remains in line with their budget. And the Finance Office has begun the budget process and is scheduled to be presented to the Finance meeting in October. And that is all for the reports.
Any questions for Amanda or the Finance Department? No? Thank you. Next item are our budget impact analysis policy requests. First up is the 2008 engagement letter. Mr. Tom Lejeune, Falcon Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, you've got another year fastly coming to a close. It's hard to believe. But basically, the parish is not in the too far off distant future of having its financial statements audited again in accordance with the state audit law. Historically, at this time of year, you've typically engaged your auditor, so that's why this request is before you tonight for your consideration. Also included in the request is the preparation of a comprehensive annual financial report. This was an effort that was initiated during 2007 and required a significant amount of energy, as I'm sure the staff can attest to, not only on their part but on our part, with respect from an audit oversight standpoint, as well as preparation of that massive document that we issued to you a couple of months ago. The Parish Finance Office has committed to continuing that effort since a lot of the groundwork was laid during 2007, and certainly the audit effort is going to support that commitment as we get into the end of 2008 and into 2009. It's certainly been our pleasure to serve you as your auditor for the parish, and we really appreciate the opportunity as well as the relationship that we've forged over the years, and we look forward to working with you again for this coming year.
Thank you, Tommy. We certainly appreciate your expertise and your firm's advice and analysis on helping us with our finances. So thank you. I need a motion.
So
to
moved,
approve.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Valentine. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 10B, Assistant District Attorney invoices, Amanda Barrow.
These are some old invoices from Sheets, Babin and Associates from 2004 to 2007. On behalf of ADA Ricky Babin, what happened was they had several accounts set up for the parish, and one of the accounts were they disabled, but they were still putting bills to it, but the bills were never printing for us. They gave it to us about a year or so ago, but it took a while to go back and research from 2004 to make sure we did not pay any of them, and after our research we find that these bills have not been paid, and we would like approval to process.
Second. Motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Lambert. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10C, Election Department, hiring of additional employee, Mr. Robert Poche.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. As y'all can recall, on April 3rd, y'all authorized me to hire an additional employee. And, of course, at that time, there was the governor's freeze on, and with civil service rules and regulations, it was only about 6 weeks or so that I was able to actually get a person in-house. Because of the experience that this person had, the state put her in at a higher salary than the bottom minimum for civil service. I'm here tonight to request from y'all this budget expenditure request for the amount of $17,160. If possible, I'd like to make it retroactive since she's already received one paycheck for a lesser amount.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 10D1, our professional services contract for Wanda August, Capital Area Human Service District Prevention Grant.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Thompson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kluwat. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D2, Mental Health Department Professional Services Contract for Margaret Smith.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Lambert. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D3, Professional Services Contract for O'Neill Robinson.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Joseph.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D4, Professional Services Contract for Human Services for Marilyn Hamilton.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D5, Professional Services Contract for Heather Hines.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D6, Professional Services Contract for Wanda August for the Governor's Safe and Drug-Free Schools Grant. Motion by Councilman Bell.
Second.
Second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D7, a Professional Services Contract for Kimberly Burgess Smith.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10D8, consultant contract on accreditation of rehabilitation facilities.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Kluwat.
Ms. Mendendorf.
Are you good with all this?
Am I good with it?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
ma'am.
I wrote every word of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Just wanted to acknowledge you.
Great. Any further discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10E, Fire District Number 2, purchase of a new fire truck. Chuck Montero, Fire Chief.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you. I'm requesting approval of a budget analysis, budget impact analysis, excuse me, for the purchase of a new fire truck for Fire District 2. The purchase amount is $195,371.42. The item is already in the Fire District 2 budget.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Thompson, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 10F, Department of Public Works. These are items from our recent Transportation Committee. Item F1, approval to purchase property for improvements on West Worthing Road. Motion by Councilman
Second.
Thompson, second by Councilman Bell. Discussion. Objections? Motion passes. Item 10F2, approval of low bid for the 2007
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
RW-01 road project.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10F3, approval of task order with LA Testing for the 2007 IN-01 road project. Motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10F4, the Department of Public Works, approval of low bid on the 2007 road construction project.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman
Second.
Kluwat, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10F5, approval of plans and authorization to take bids on the 2007 TL-01 project at LA 431 and LA 421. Motion by Councilman Valentine, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Item 10G, Ascension Parish Tourist Commission, request for 2007-2008 hotel/motel state rebate funds for operations of the tourist center. Ramon Gomez, would you like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Ramon Gomez from Ascension Parish Tourist Commission. Thank you all for having us here. And the budget request is for our state rebate portion that we get every year to operate the Tourist Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion?
Question.
Question, Councilman Valentine.
I hate to do this to you, Raymond.
No problem.
Any discussion with the Tourist Commission on the extra 2 cents that could be levied that we haven't levied in Ascension Parish, since most people that stay in motels in this parish are not from this parish? It's something that could be done.
We would definitely be interested in that.
Is there any discussion dealing with that?
We would love to have discussion.
Okay. I mean, it's solely on you guys bringing it back to the council, I would assume, huh, Parish President? You familiar with that?
For the additional 2%.
I didn't hear you, Mr.
The
Bell.
additional that's allowed by the Tourist Commission, we only collect 2 cents, if I remember, and we could collect 4. It's always been a bone of contention for the last 10, 15 years.
Well, we were around when we voted on the first tourist tax, and at that time, it didn't have to go to a vote of people. Since then, there's a new law now that it does go to a vote of the people.
Well, that's a good reason not to discuss it then.
And if you would like to put it on the ballot, we still have a couple of days. We can go ahead and draw you up a proposition.
No, that's all right. Parish President, you know me, I'm not for taxes.
That's what you say.
All right, any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Motion passes. Before we adjourn, I think Councilman Bell has...
more here.
Oh, no, we did H earlier with Ray Poche.
I was running late getting here. I'm sorry. I was checking on our fellow councilman Cullen, and I'd like to tell y'all that he was sitting up in the chair when the surgery ended today about 11 o'clock, and he's already sitting up. So he's doing quite well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Motion by Councilman Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bell. Meeting adjourned.